The sub was exploring the wreckage of the Titanic.
Imagine being trapped underground with your oxygen running out by the second. Darkness surrounds you, the walls closing in, and every breath becoming harder than the last. This isn't just a story, it's a real nightmare that one man faced alone, battling time, panic, and the crushing silence. As hope flickered, the fight for survival became desperate. Will he find help before it's too late? The tension builds with every moment, every breath, every second slipping away. You don't want to miss this gripping rescue story that reveals the true power of human courage when faced with almost certain death. Watch closely, because every second counts. He was trapped deep underground with no way out. The walls around him felt like they were closing in. Darkness covered everything, and the air was thick and hard to breathe. Panic began to rise inside him, but he forced himself to stay calm. He knew that staying calm was his only chance to survive. His phone had no signal, and his flashlight was running low on power. The silence was broken only by the sound of dripping water and his own breathing. Every breath felt heavier, and the space was getting smaller. He tried to find a way out, but the tunnels were narrow and confusing. Time was slipping away, and with every minute, his hope started to fade. Even though he was alone, he remembered the training he had received for such emergencies. He checked his equipment and tried to conserve his oxygen. The cold and wet walls reminded him that this was a race against time. He had to hold on and keep fighting until help arrived. Being trapped like this was a nightmare, but he was determined not to give up. He knew that survival meant patience, courage, and a little bit of luck. The struggle had just begun. The oxygen supply was limited and running out fast. Each breath felt heavier than the last, and the air around him grew thinner. He knew his time was slipping away with every second that passed. The small tank on his back was almost empty, and panic threatened to take over. He tried to control his breathing, taking slow, shallow breaths to save what little oxygen remained. His training told him this was the only way to survive, but the fear was real. He could feel his body growing weaker, his vision blurring at the edges. In that dark, silent place, oxygen became his most precious resource. Without it, he wouldn't last long. The pressure was crushing, not just from the walls around him, but from the reality that his life depended on something invisible and fading fast. As the seconds ticked down, he held on to hope that rescue was coming. But with every breath, the fight to stay alive grew harder. Oxygen was no longer just air. It was a lifeline he had to protect at all costs. Panic started creeping in as the oxygen levels dropped dangerously low. His heart raced, and his mind struggled to stay focused. Every sound echoed loudly in the silence, making him feel more isolated. The fear of running out of air made it harder to breathe, even though he needed to stay calm. Memories of his training helped him fight the rising panic. He reminded himself to slow down his breathing and conserve energy. But the dark, confined space made it difficult. The walls seemed to close in, and time felt like it was moving too fast. Despite the panic, he knew giving in would mean losing the fight for survival. He forced himself to think clearly, searching for any signs of help or a way out. The battle wasn't just against the environment, it was against his own fear. This moment tested every ounce of his strength and willpower. Time was running out faster than he could imagine. Every second felt like a minute, stretching longer with the weight of desperation. The oxygen tank was almost empty, and the darkness around him seemed to close in tighter with each passing moment. He tried to focus on counting breaths, slowing his heart rate to save what little air he had left. But the pressure was unbearable. His body screamed for more oxygen, and his mind raced against the clock. The ticking of an invisible timer haunted him, reminding him that rescue might not come in time. In that small space, time became both his enemy and his only hope. The minutes stretched, the seconds slipped away, and he fought to stay alive. Every breath was precious, every moment a battle. With time against him, his survival depended on how long he could hold on before help arrived. The struggle for survival was more intense than he had ever imagined. Every breath became a battle as the oxygen supply dwindled dangerously low. His body ached with exhaustion, but giving up was not an option. He forced himself to stay awake, fighting against the overwhelming urge to close his eyes and surrender to the darkness. His hands searched blindly for anything that could help. a tool, a piece of equipment, or even a sign of life beyond the walls trapping him. The cold air burned his lungs, but he kept moving, inching forward despite the pain. Every small movement required all his strength, yet he refused to stop. The isolation was crushing. The silence pressed down on him like a weight, and the fear of running out of time gnawed at his mind. But amidst the terror, a stubborn spark of hope remained. He reminded himself that he was still alive, still fighting. With each passing moment, his struggle became a test of endurance and willpower. The fight wasn't just physical, it was mental. He had to stay strong, control his fear, and hold on to the hope that rescue was near. This was more than survival, it was a battle against the nightmare closing in around him. Help! Just when the darkness seemed endless, a faint sound broke through the silence, a distant voice calling out his name. The hope that had been flickering in his heart suddenly grew stronger. Help was coming. He struggled to respond, shouting back with what little energy he had left. The rescuers were finally near, their voices clearer now, mixing with the soft sound of digging and tools breaking through the earth. The team worked quickly but carefully, knowing every second mattered. Their determination gave him the strength to keep fighting, to hold on despite the pain and exhaustion. He could feel the vibrations from their efforts, each strike bringing him closer to freedom. The connection to the outside world was fragile but real, and it lifted his spirits higher than he thought possible. For the first time in what felt like forever, he believed he would survive. Though weak and gasping for air, the arrival of help turned the nightmare toward hope. It was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, no one is truly alone. Rescue was on its way, and with it, the chance to live again. Rescue after what felt like an eternity. The rescuers finally broke through the debris. A beam of light pierced the darkness, and strong hands reached out to pull him to safety. Exhausted and barely conscious, he felt the fresh air fill his lungs, life returning with every breath. The team worked fast to get him out, carefully lifting him from the trapped space. His body was weak, but his spirit was alive. The faces around him were filled with relief and hope, proof that he had survived against all odds. Even as medics began treating him, he knew the nightmare was over, but the memory would stay forever. This rescue was more than just survival, it was a story of courage, hope, and the unbreakable human spirit. Though the darkness tried to claim him, he fought through, showing that even in the worst moments, rescue and hope can still arrive. This mission tested every limit, but it ended with life. Thank you for watching this incredible story of survival against all odds. If this video kept you on the edge of your seat, make sure to hit the subscribe button for more real, life stories filled with suspense and emotion. What would you do if you were trapped and running out of oxygen? Would you stay calm or panic? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your story. And don't forget to watch our next video. They ignored the map's red zone. What happened next is chilling, coming soon. Stay tuned for more intense stories that test the limits of courage and hope. Remember, every moment matters.